Good afternoon, everyone. Welcome to Grandline's online salon. I'm Rama, a communications coach from Grandline Philippines, and I'm so excited to introduce to you my partner, our guest co-host for today, Ms. Florence Rivera. Ms. Florence is a graduate of the University of the Philippines, and she's the former general manager and co-founder of 51 Talk and the former director of human resources of GoFluent. Currently, she is the Secretary General of the National Association of Independent Travel Agencies, or known as NITAS, and the founder and CEO of Travelbug Philippines.
Hi, Roma. Hi, everyone. Happy to be here again. And I'm excited to start our discussion of today's online salon.
Well, in this program, we feature several social issues that will allow the speakers to share their expertise. The students who are part of the audience will also have their fair share of questions at the end of the discussion. We will be asking them about the main topic, and at least two speakers will be given time to state their points or their opinions. Just a friendly reminder, kindly set your microphone on mute unless it's your turn to speak. Let's begin.
Education in the Philippines has undergone several stages of development, from the pre-Spanish times to the present. According to the Department of Education, the pre-Spanish system of tribal education underwent major changes during the Spanish era. The tribal tutors were replaced by the Spanish missionaries. Education was religion-oriented. It was for the elite. Primary instruction was free and the teaching of Spanish was compulsory. The defeat of Spain by American forces paved the way for Aguinaldo's Republic under a revolutionary government. That was June 12, 1898, which we celebrated yesterday as our Independence Day. Happy Independence Day, Philippines. American rule established the free public school system. English became the medium of instruction, and a highly centralized public school system was first installed in 1901. It was in 1943, under the Japanese Republic, when the Ministry of Education was created. Under the Japanese, the teaching of Tagalog, Philippine history, and character education was taught. Love for work and dignity of labor was emphasized as well.
Interesting. And we've come a long way, Ms. Flaw. In 1972, the Ministry of Education became the Department of Education and Culture, or DEX. Its mandate to basic education covers elementary, secondary, and non-formal education, including culture and sports, while CHED, or Commission on Higher Education, became responsible for university or higher education. A few more decades later, in 2001, DEX was transformed to the Department of Education, or DepEd, and its new mandate redefined the role of field offices, such as regional, division, district offices, and schools. Then in 2013, the Enhanced Basic Education Act was passed into law, more commonly known as the K12 Program. The K12 program covers kindergarten and 12 years of basic educations, including 6 years of primary education, 4 years of junior high school, and 2 years of senior high school to provide sufficient time for mastery of concepts and skills, develop lifelong learners, and prepare graduates for tertiary education, middle-level skills development, employment, and entrepreneurship.
That was a bold move from the previous administration, Ms. Roma. The Philippines was the last country in Asia and one of only 3 countries worldwide with a 10-year pre-university cycle. And so moving to a 13-year program was long overdue, as it is found to be the best period for learning under basic education. It is also the recognized standard for students and professionals globally. However, while we are in the middle of transitioning to K-12 and setting up senior high schools around the country, a new challenge has come upon us. The COVID-19 pandemic has caused disruption in all aspects of our lives, including the basic education of children. The Department of Education has proposed the transition from the conventional face-to-face learning to blended learning, which is a combination of online distance learning and in-person delivery of learning materials to the homes of learners.
And recently, DepEd announced that classes will start on August 24, with schools adopting various learning delivery options such as face-to-face, blended learning, distance learning, homeschooling, and other modes of delivery depending on the local COVID risk severity classification and compliance with minimum health standards of the locality. However, President Duterte himself, in a public address, doubted the Philippines' readiness for virtual learning.
So are we ready for this transition, Ms. Roma? Our discussion today with our esteemed guests from around the Philippines, not just Metro Manila, will revolve around this issue. Let's start by introducing our guest speakers.
Let me introduce our first speaker for today, Ms. Aiken Tafgar. As a consultant at the Asian Development Bank, Ms. Tafgar is the program manager of the Integrated Trade Agenda 2030 of the Central Asia Regional Economic Cooperation region. In the past 16 years, she has specialized in international trade and regional cooperation, covering a wide array of economic development policies in trade, agriculture, e-commerce, and services. She finished Master in Development Economics at UP School of Economics. Currently, she's finishing her Master of Laws at International Commercial Law at the University of Salford, Manchester, United Kingdom, and would like to give her perspective as a mom in today's topic. So let's welcome Ms. Aiken Tafgar.
Welcome,
Ms. Aiken.
Hi, good afternoon, and thank you for inviting me here today. Yeah, happy to be with the fellow Ilonggos as well, and I hope everyone's keeping safe. Yeah, that's all for now.
Thank you, Aiken. It's our pleasure to welcome our next speaker, Ms. Charma Rose Tadeja. She's committed to student success inside the classroom and in life. A graduate of University of the Philippines in the Visayas, Charma has a BA in Comparative Literature and is a licensed professional teacher. Currently a teacher in the Senior High School Department at Occidental Mindoro State College, Ms. Tadeja teaches humanities and social sciences subjects. A firm believer in lifelong learning, she is now pursuing her master's in education. Thank you for joining us today, Ms. Charma Tadeja. Hi, Charma.
Hello, good afternoon, everyone. It is a pleasure to be a part of Grandline's online salon.
Thank you so much, Ms. Charma. Well, it's an honor to welcome our next guest speaker, Mr. Vicente Tan. He is a former associate professor in communication and media studies at UP Visayas Iloilo. Aside from that, he's an art curator, eventologist, a family man, world wanderer, and a student of life. Currently, he's the Director of Culture, Arts, and International Relations Office in Sacred Heart School, Ateneo de Cebu. Welcome to our program, Mr. Vicente Tan.
Hi, Sir Vinny.
Hello.
There you go.
All right. Hi, everyone. Greetings from Cebu. And I hope that everyone's healthy and safe and happy. Nice to meet you all.
Okay. Let's also welcome our another guest speaker, Dr. Genevieve Asenjo. She's a full professor of literature and creative writing, University Research Fellow with a project on the vocabulary of river, holder of Alfredo Litiatco Professional Chair in Literature, and Bonifacio Tibayan Professional Chair in Applied Linguistics, and Chair of the Department of Literature at the De La Salle University, Manila. She is also an award-winning and published writer in 3 Philippine languages and author of 5 books, 2 collections of poetry, a collection of short stories, and a novel. She was an honorary writing fellow in the International Writing Program of the University of Iowa in the US in 2012, and overseas writing fellow in South Korea in 2009. In 2011, she founded Balay Sugidanon, an online platform for mother tongue. And in 2015, co-founded a writing group, Taftic Incorporated. 2020 marks her 20th year of teaching that includes online delivery through Canvas. She is a certified animal speech educator. Again, let's welcome Dr. Genevieve Asenjo.
Hello, good afternoon. Hello, everyone, especially to our DepEd teachers and friends. Thank you for having me here. It's my pleasure to engage with you on this timely topic that consumes my everyday life since ECQ to this modified community parenting.
Thank you so much, Dr. Genevieve. And we're also glad to introduce to you our guest from Grandline, Mr. Akifumi Mitsuhashi. He's a Japanese CPA, and we will have him later during the Q&A session. And thank you for joining us today, and please enjoy the discussion, Mr. Akifumi Mitsuhashi.
Yeah, thank you for inviting this opportunity. So I'm glad to attend this online salon. And so because so I have 3 kids, so I'm interested in this tema. So thank you. That's all.
Okay, thank you. We'll see you later. So let's begin, Ms. Roma.
Sure.
Our education system has evolved according to the times, from books to computers, from traditional learning and teaching styles to new ways of learning and teaching. And now, because of the current pandemic, we are faced with yet another change, and we have to do it fast. Before we go any further, let us first define certain words and concepts. So on to our first question for the day. What is distance education and blended learning? How different are these from traditional classroom instruction? So maybe we can first have Dr. Jen to enumerate or to define these concepts for us. Dr. Jen, go ahead.
Yeah, so this is good that we are starting from the basics. So distance education, because learning does not happen at the same physical space and time. So that means it could be self-paced and self-directed. So before, you can do that via mail correspondence, for instance. And of course, you submit at a certain period for assessment or to get certification or credentials. Right now, when we say distance education, you have the likes of Coursera courses that you can get free online or, of course, enroll as well. On one hand, blended learning as part of distance education is technology enabled. You enter into a learning management system or LMS, and of course, you are able to do this once you are enrolled. And this can be synchronous or happening at the same time or real time. Say your class is every Monday and Wednesday, 9 to 11. So you appear in that learning management system at the same time. Now that's what we call synchronous. So online, real time, or asynchronous, happening at different time. Online, you can choose to replay the audio or the video recording of your professor, for instance. So blended also because there is human interaction. You're not dealing with a robot or an AI. Therefore, it is faculty directed and facilitated using an online platform. This means that the faculty teaches and assists students every step of the way, ensuring that activities and assessments can be done online and offline. And the faculty follow a set of quality criteria in the course and instructional design. So like in our case in LaSalle, that's what we are doing right now, course development. So engagement in the forms of, say, chats, threaded discussions, conferences via Zoom, Google Meets, etc. Each student is given a mastery pathway based on his or her performance assessment. In this sense, the student is empowered or given agency and works at his or her own pace within the given learning period. So for instance, in our case, we have 14 weeks in our senior high school. And in every week, we have 3 hours of synchronous per week. So that's primarily what the distance education and blended learning is on one hand.
Okay,
Yes.
thank you for that definition, Dr. Jen. You mentioned Coursera. I've been taking some Coursera courses, and it's actually very effective. I mean, it's like your teacher is focusing on you. You know, I think it's even more effective than a one-on-one or a classroom-based kind of teaching. Okay, so let's hear also from Miss Charma. Miss Charma, I think there's a storm going on in Mindoro right now. Thank you so much for, being with us despite that.
Well, it's a pleasure to be here. And for Miss Genevieve, so I can only add for Occidental Mindoro State College, we are now transitioning from traditional to blended learning. So there are actually seminars and webinars for Google Classroom and Google Sheets and Google for Education. So we are still trying to assimilate the transition. So between distance and blended learning as opposed to traditional classroom instruction. So I think in blended learning, it allows students to take information home and have their own time to assimilate it without the pressure of keeping up with the rest of the class. So it also in distance learning, so a great deal of technology is involved, wherein students are required to own advanced gadgets to receive online education. So students need to have regular access to their emails and of course hardware, cell phones, mobiles, webcams. But in traditional education or the traditional classroom, no such digital and technical requirements are needed. So as compared also to traditional learning, distance learning can be less expensive. Of course, internet will, for some people, will be quite expensive for the data. But when it comes to books, online materials are available, so it lessens the price maybe or the cost. So in distance learning, of course, the courses are taken online, which does not restrict the students to a particular location. So in traditional learning, however, so of course, students must go to class or college for education.
Okay, so Ms. Charma, is it correct when you say distance learning or when you say blended learning? Blended learning is actually a combination of different kinds of learning.
Yes, that's correct. Yes.
And then distance learning means you're using technology. You're not in the actual classroom.
Yes, as what the woman Genevieve has said a while ago, it's more of a correspondence type of learning.
Right. Dr. Jen, by the way, and Sir Vinny, Miss Aiken, you can join in on the discussion at any point if you want to say something or if you want to add something, it's fine. Okay, so Dr. Jen, you've mentioned earlier that you've actually done a lot of distance learning and blended learning in the past, right? In as a mode of instruction for your students.
Because like for example, in the case of LaSalle, we ended our term last March, April, that even extend the emergency remote learning. No, so that's why but prior to that, prior to ECQ, we're already doing the blended learning or the hybrid. So which is comprised of, there are sessions that you do in the classroom and there are sessions that you do online. So that's also one definition of blended. No, so there are weeks now where you meet, let's say, when the situation allows us, sometime in some classes like laboratories or really classes like, let's say, workshop that needs to be face-to-face. But on one hand, most sessions will be done online.
Okay.
So, yes.
Go ahead. Okay, Ms. Charma, I'm curious, because you are in Mindoro, how are people taking in, online learning? Because I know even in Metro Manila, a lot of people are complaining about using the internet because we know that the internet infrastructure in the country is not that stable yet. So has that been a problem for you in Mindoro?
It's posing a big problem actually in Occidental Mindoro, as we do not have a good internet service. So there are areas that there literally no internet, and for students, especially for our students in Occidental Mindoro State College, and both in high school and in the higher education, most of them, or some parts of most of them, not really most of them, but some were actually katutubong mangyans, which they do not have any access to internet, even TVs, or they do not even have electricity in their area. That's one thing. That's yes. If in Manila, it's posing a big problem. Here also in Occidental Mindoro, it is a big discussion on how it's going to be done.
Sir Vinny, how about in Cebu?
All right. I was just reflecting while listening to Dr. Genevieve and also to Ms. Charma earlier about the distance learning. I realized that I remembered way back when I was in college, like 20 years ago, distance learning was offered by University of the Philippines, Los Baños, and they had certain modalities, no? But this distance learning, which is equated nowadays to online learning, has generally or has tremendously evolved, because apparently, like right now, even in our discussion, there is the concept of synchronous and asynchronous. But I can remember very simply, way back when emails were made available, YouTubes were made available. These are examples of practically how we cope with the modern times in terms of learning. Like I remember even little kids would actually get online and even learn from Dora the Explorer, or these YouTube channels. And then I think way back also when there was television,
Yeah.
there was television programs like 5 and Up, things like those. We get to learn from this. And in my 2 cents right now is, yes, I think it's really a challenging time. Yes, the infrastructure in the Philippines may not be totally available, but definitely I think we have to embrace the changes and let's see what we can do, because as educators, we can better promote and also advance learning while we are facing this crisis.
That's right. And I was listening to Secretary Briones when she said that for those without internet, you can actually, they're planning to take advantage of TV and even radio, but in areas where there is no internet, there's usually just radio. So I think they're talking to radio stations to deliver some of the learning material. And I think they're also thinking of printing them out and sending them to the homes of learners. So Ms. Charma, in your case, are you planning also of doing all these modalities?
Yes, most probably I will be doing the modular thing and the printed, because that will be the thing that can reach most of the students.
Modular.
Yeah, you mentioned earlier, Ms. Charma, about the katutubo. So how will you deliver these materials to them?
One thing will be delivering the printed materials to in coordination with the barangays, and we are still on that planning mode. I'm not really sure how we can be able to reach them. So there will be, I think that what I can think of is only for the printed materials. Yeah, so we can deliver it to them right at their doorsteps.
But with printed materials, Ms. Charma, who will facilitate that? So that the parent is expected to facilitate or to teach the children? Is that how it's going to be?
I think it's going to be a collaboration between the teacher and the parents. There will be some trainings for the teacher. I cannot really get the whole picture of it for now, for DepEd, for the continuity plan of DepEd. They are trying to say through televisions, through printed materials, and of course the question is always, who is going to teach the children? So who's going to tell them about the assessments? How are they going to how will it be explained? So I don't know. Maybe it's a we'll see.
Yeah, I think everybody has that attitude now. We'll see what happens because we're not really prepared to deal with this. We're all surprised. Dr. Jen, would you like to add something?
The IPs, we have School of Living Traditions. So like I'm familiar, I'm aware there's the Hanunoo Mangyan School in Mindoro, and there's a lot of projects as well. No? So I think this is also an opportunity to reactivate, especially the community life, that education is not the sole responsibility of, say, teachers, but of course, parents and the whole community.
That's right.
But of course, it's easier said than done. But I think it's also happening. I have 3 DepEd teachers in my family, and they're also preparing right now, of course, with a lot of anxieties as well.
Okay. Dr. Vinny, what about in Cebu? I believe in Ateneo that's not really a problem because it's a private school.
I would say that. Yes,
Go ahead.
thank you, Ms. Flores. I would say that it's everybody's problem, not just in the Philippines, not just in Cebu, but all around the world. I mean, the reality is, even if technology-wise, families will have, let's say, gadgets, but can you imagine, for example, families who have, like, say, 4 children, and there are synchronous modalities? And can you imagine, or would you expect that the family will have to acquire 4 laptops for for the 4 kids at home? So these are really, I would say, problems, but very positive problems that we can hurdle. This is really a test on how we can collaborate and synergize our efforts from the school with the families and also all the stakeholders. And also, this is a challenge for us to really stretch our creativity and resourcefulness. It will never be easy, it's easier said than done, but definitely I think as educators, we're committed to really forming our generation, our young generation, to become better citizens of our world or of our country. So in that case, we are committed, and so we'll do everything. We will try our best. It will mean hard work, but we are committed to actually try to deliver what we can give to our students, to our youth.
Well said, Sir Vinny. So that wraps up our first discussion, our first question. I'll pass you on to Ms. Roma now.
Thank you so much, Ms. Florence. Let's proceed to the second part of our discussion. So one of the goals of the Department of Education for every learner who completes the K-12 basic education program is that they will be nurtured and developed to become Filipinos with 21st century skills. A basic education monitoring and evaluation framework was established to ensure that the learner's characteristics as the main indicators of success is aligned to the objectives of the current curriculum. But now that we have to roll out a new way of teaching and learning due to the pandemic, the question is, how will DepEd monitor the quality of instruction in a distance and blended learning setup? So may we have your views about this, Ms. Charma?
Regarding the monitoring of quality of instruction, so what I do know is that the Department of Education, through the Bureau of Curriculum Development and Curriculum Standard Development Division, has produced a list of the most essential learning competencies, or what we call now MELCs. So this was done in order to ensure that the grade level standards set for each learning are still attained. So therefore, the MELCs identified are those that work in close association with other competencies. So, for example, in senior high school in the K-12 curriculum, we are using the curriculum guide. So for now for the distance and blended learning, there is what we call the MELC, which is just a compressed competencies that is actually in context with what we have right now for blended learning.
Okay. Okay, thank you so much. Good morning to everyone.
Yes.
Okay, so yeah, thank you so much, Ms. Charma, for that information. Now, I would like also to know, Sir Vicente, how about your opinion about this one? What could be the instruction regarding this distance and blended learning setup?
Thank you. For that question, I'm not so privy, or I'm not so I don't know the extent right now of how DepEd really intends to unfold the monitoring system. Because as we all know, there are pronouncements recently in terms of the opening of classes, how are the modalities or even the enrollment will be. But in terms of really the guidelines or the directives to exactly tell or show the students, even their parents, and also the teachers on how to quantitatively and qualitatively assess the students, I think it will all boil down to still the output or the performance of the students. No, I mean that's a general picture, but as to how to develop, like before, we are so used to, let's say, 50% goes to the performance tasks or the final exams, etc. I don't exactly know yet. I don't have the data on that personally. But I believe that just as there are directives in terms of how to go about this, and this is not a perfect structure yet, we're experimenting and we're learning in the process. I'm sure in the process also, once different schools, be it private or public, will have the mechanism in terms of structure or of learning, the modality. Accordingly, it will also get to the point of giving the assessment module or the assessment structure, because in the long run, we want to affirm our students in terms of their accomplishment, in terms of their performance, whether they get an honor or not, whether they will all pass, or all those qualitative grades that will be given. I think we still have to learn that, and we are still in the process of really crafting the best modality or on that. But more importantly, what I would like to really stress out probably is even before the monitoring stage, just like in any management system, before you get to the monitoring function of management, there is always the primacy of planning. And in planning, I think it's best that we have capability building even for our teachers. Because how can they even go to the extent of evaluating their students if they themselves are wanting or are lacking in terms of competence, confidence of delivering their lessons to the students with the technology that is necessary for them to get across their lesson. So in that case, I think every DepEd as a whole or respective schools will have to really allot certain mechanisms to build the capability of their teachers or mentors or educators. And that's what's very important for me right now.
Yes, exactly. I totally agree with you, Sir Vicente, that it's not just about the students who are coping with these changes when it comes to this learning process, but also at the same time with the coach and with the teachers as well. But hey, I have a question here. Just a follow-up question. So in last June 1, DepEd launched this remote enrollment process. Which is not, of course, considered not doable for everyone, especially those katutubo that you were discussing a while ago in the first question. Like the question is that how is this possible? This kind of remote enrollment process and this television and radio networks to be aired for the students, especially for those areas who are getting a very weak signal and kind of really difficult for them to have an access.
Right. I do believe that every locality has its own context in terms of capability or even facility to address such remote enrollment. But if if our commitment or our goal as educators or as academic institutions is really to promote the possibility of 100% enrollment for all our students so that they don't miss 1 year of education, then I think every school, not just DepEd to think about it, but every school will have to think of mechanism on how to address context. It has always been, as educators, we were taught, or we are advocates of saying no one should be left behind. So in that
Exactly.
process, if there are students that we get to know that they can't really get online and then register, then probably there are mechanisms, or there are this will be an opportunity for the school, for certain teachers, certain advisors or administrators to really reach out and see how we can help, because the greater picture or the greater goal is for them to get enrolled. So if, let's say at the end, let's say you have 2 weeks enrollment, and in 2 weeks time you realize that only 50% have enrolled, then probably you can go back to your database and check how do you get to reach out to your students. And that for me is the
Exactly.
greater commitment of our schools, be it private or public.
Wow. And it's really difficult. Like if you're going to monitor if it's already like, 100% enrollment. Wow. But anyway, I would like also to know, how about Miss Charma? How about the condition in Mindoro? Is there like 100% enrollment right now going on in your vicinity?
Okay, for the DepEd schools, I really don't know how far they've gone along. For my school, Occidental Mindoro State College, we are actually giving out forms, online forms to check if for those who have access for the internet, if they want to enroll or not. For second year, third year, and fourth year students, they are automatically enrolled. Their advisors are actually calling them up to check if they want to still to enroll or not. It's only for the I think it's only for the first year students that will be rolling out those forms, asking for online forms, and of course some printed forms to check if they want to enroll or not. That's so far as far as I know how we have done so far in our school.
Okay, so I'm just trying to understand this. So the advisor is asking the student if he wants to enroll or not.
Yes, through either phone calls, text messaging, FB Messenger, any other ways that they can connect to their students. Mostly the advisors will be the one to do this.
And what will
Okay, so-
happen? Yes, I'm sorry. What will happen,
Yeah.
Ms. Sharma? For example, the student will say, or the parent will say, I cannot enroll my child because I don't have any access. What will be the alternative action regarding this? Of course, no one should be left behind.
Yes,
Regarding
I
with when it comes
understand
to
that.
students.
Yes.
Yeah. Mm-hmm.
For now, I'm sorry, I really don't have any updates yet on how it's going to be done. If let's say the students will not be able to do the enrollment, or that they have no access to the internet connection. So far, what we know right now is we will just reach out through phone, text, and if it is possible, maybe then we are going to visit them at home, of course, with the health and safety guidelines, and do home visits. That's just my personal opinion. So far, that is what my school is doing right now. For now.
Okay, I understood. So this is a lot. There are a lot of things that our teachers will be doing this school year. Well, following up to my question now. So does our government or does our Congress have enough fund to support the basic education learning continuity plan for the school year 2020 to 2021 that will open this coming August 24? Will the government could fully finance the distribution of modules, teaching materials for teachers, not only for the students, because everyone needs now tablets and computers and Wi-Fi. Will there be enough fund for this one? Anyone could answer.
Okay.
Well, yeah, go
I
on.
think
just would like-
Charm.
Yes, go on, sir. Yes, go on, sir Vince.
Okay. All right. I seriously, I cannot speak on behalf of the government or of DepEd. And that's my own take. But whether there's funding or not, I think this is a call for us to really be creative, be resourceful, and to synergize our I don't know how we can synergize as a country, but I'm pretty sure, when there is a crisis, apparently there can be collaborations even with NGOs, with private companies. I've even seen some showbiz personalities giving out. Of course, they cannot give out to millions of students. They're giving out iPads and the likes. Or there are probably certain schools can have uh, facilities that they can loan out, no? But apparently, I think this is really a call for us to be more resourceful, to be more creative, and in other words, we don't allow this crisis to impede us from working towards our goal. So whether there's budget, there's less budget, or more budget, I think the bottom line is we take on the challenge.
I know you're absolutely right. I actually you were saying a while ago about the celebrities giving just like Heart Evangelista giving iPads for people. But anyway, who would like to? Yeah, I read about this, but who would like to add about this one?
I think Ms. Rome, sorry, Ms. Ren. We can also call Ms. Aiken. She's an economist. She works for
yes.
the So, Aiken, maybe you can give your thoughts on this matter.
Regarding, can you hear me well?
Yes.
Yeah, okay. So regarding funding, actually LGUs should take part in this, and LGUs do have special education funding. It is 1% levied on the property tax of what we pay, and it can be used to augment central government's funding for education. So for public schools, this is really good. We should tap this special education fund. And so far, only Pasig has planned to do this. They're rolling out 1.2 billion pesos of budget for tablets for both teachers and students. And that's coming from the special education fund. So it's taxpayers' money. It's there. It's up for DepEd to actually coordinate with LGUs how to use this fund. So it's there. It's for everybody. And I hope, somehow we can force our LGUs or encourage our LGUs to actually tap this fund for the children this coming school year. Yeah.
Well, I just have a follow-up question. Okay, because it's not that easy just to give tablets or what do you call this, teaching materials or learning materials to people. Are there screening too? Like, they need to check too who are those less privileged and who can afford somehow to buy these gadgets.
I think that for public schools, I don't know how to actually screen them, but it's quite difficult, right? So, but as Sir Vinny actually mentioned, there's opportunity to gather as one, as a nation, and we can also explore, the government can also explore public-private partnerships at this time, and maybe, you grant scholarships for top 10 students and give them the opportunity to take part in a private school program. And I don't know how DepEd would do that, but definitely there is space for collaboration indeed with the private sector. Yeah, that's it.
Wow, thank you so much, Ms. Aiken. This is very helpful. But I have just one last question, which is, I guess, very important, because I also once a student before, the proliferation of internet cafes or internet shops has dramatically increased access throughout the Philippines. And of course, not all families or not all students have personal tablets or computers at home. Now, this is my question. Are there any regulations circulating right now regarding internet shops or internet cafes? Because still most of the students, I believe, will go to internet shops or cafes for the research and studying.
No, I don't know any regulations regarding that.
The internet cafes. Who would like to answer this one? Are there any regulations also that they need to follow, or will they still be safely be used or be open to students or for everyone, the internet cafes or internet shops?
I think there's none that I can think of or I have read, like guidelines or procedures on this yet, because apparently I think we are just in the process right now of exploring really the possibilities. Also, we all know that before the close shop of all the schools, when we have to have the ECQ and the GCQ, internet were practically used for research, or people who would like to go online, check their emails, do gaming. But right now, as to how we will redirect this for the purpose of education, then it's something that has to be laid out yet. It has to be planned out, and eventually will have to be cascaded to all stakeholders of the society.
Okay, well understood. Well, we have no more time, and thank you so much. It's all the information and opinions and views you gave to us are really helpful. And I believe that we have lots of things that we need to catch up with this new normal of learning, Ms. Flo.
That's right. Too bad we're short on time. So let's move on. DepEd has rolled out the month-long enrollment process remotely from June 1 to June 30. As of June 5th, the initial number of enrollees is said to be a fifth of last year's 27.7 million student population in primary and secondary schools. For ACT Secretary General Raymond Basilio, school opening should be postponed unless DepEd can ensure that distance learning will be fully accessible to all learners. If not, millions of students will be deprived of it, as technology is one of the major components for distance learning. So considering the health issues, resources, decreased number of enrollees, and everything that we mentioned earlier today, will it be better to skip this school year and open it in 2021 instead? So we will hear from everyone. Let's start with Sir Vinny. What do you think?
All right. I'm a parent myself, and I thought of that. I also have received a lot of feedback from my fellow parents who turned out to be friends from school. And it's a valid concern. Even as early as March, there were already questions and also some assumptions that why not postpone. But personally, I have reflected for the past 3 months of this ECQ, GCQ, I reflected that if we will not be brave enough to face the challenge of these days, then we cannot just be paralyzed by postponing what we can do. It may be difficult. It will definitely be very challenging for parents. Like, for example, if me as an educator or as an admin from my school have to work at home, and then at the same time I have to take care of my kids, help them out, set up their gadgets, etc., that will be very challenging. But nonetheless, I am committed both to my school and also to my kids, that they will be nurtured, that they will be individuals who will keep on learning. In that case, skipping might not be an answer, but rather I will bite the bullet and say, okay, let's see what we can do. And if there are problems along the way, be it connectivity with the internet, be it the availability of gadgets, I'm speaking for myself. And I would say that, sige, pagpatuloy natin to. Let's see what we can do. And I'm pretty sure, because all of us are coping with the challenge, we can seek for help from each other. Let's say from people, if the problem is on technology, then we can seek some help from those people, like maybe my former students who are experts in technology, or my colleagues in the school, or even friends who can help me out, so that eventually I can face the challenge and brave the storm. So skipping is not personally, it's not an excuse for me. It's easier said than done, no? Pero inisip ko rin kasi, what if there's another year that will mean something like this? So will we just keep skipping, and what will happen to our own children? And what value do we teach to our children if we say, okay, next year ka na lang because we have a problem this year? So probably they will also learn that, sige, when they have problems someday, as they grow older, they will just say, okay, I will just solve the problem next year. So I don't want that. I mean, I don't want to give a wrong signal to my own children. So it's a teachable moment for my own children, to tell them that, okay, let's face this, we'll help each other. It may not be perfect, it may be not comfortable and convenient, but let's see what we can do. So that's the spirit that I'm trying to dispose myself right now, as both as an educator, but at the same time as a parent. Thank you.
That's great. Yeah, I like that. It's a teachable moment indeed. Miss Aiken, as a mom also. I think you're muted. There.
Okay, here you go. Yeah, I think this one is a very tough question. I've actually encouraged my daughter to take a gap year and focus on creative writing and other things. Yeah, unfortunately, I cannot say the same thing for all the Filipino children out there. The impact of COVID to this year's schooling is really different for everybody. So I don't think it's a good idea to skip the entire year. It's better for a student to have something and than nothing at all. But I think rather than thinking of rigor this year, we should focus on sort of piloting the distance learning or blended program. We could roll out a good plan and learn from this year's implementation, and then we try to catch up from 2021. As parents, we should be fair to everyone, to teachers especially, who have the burden to be effective in this new scheme. And let's be fair to parents as well. You know, it's very difficult when you're a working parent. And for me, the pandemic is really not a perfect time to rush into things. And rather, we should reflect on what has gone wrong, what could be done right with our education system, what are the necessary skills to be, to hone for the future. I think we should take the pandemic as an opportunity to overhaul our education system and adapt to change and be more innovative. And I wish also that parents could be chill this year. And I know they expect a lot from teachers and schools, but really it's not a perfect time to be demanding. We should treat this as a learning round for catching up in 2021. It's really time to reflect on what could be done right and how could we collaborate with one another to move forward as one nation. Yeah, I think that's most essential for this year. Yeah, that's
I
it.
love your concept of the gap year. So Western. I think a lot of Filipinos don't really know what a gap year is, but you're right. This could be a gap year.
Yeah, but the problem is that not all children actually have the resources or have the platform to, have alternative learning. So it's really sad that we can't do that for all Filipino children. But I hope DepEd somehow could provide something for everybody.
That's right. And you're right. This is the time to be flexible and to just be easy, not to be. But we know that a lot of Filipinos are grade conscious. So
Yeah, it's for that.
Okay, Miss Charma, would you like to?
Yes.
Thought on this?
Well, as a teacher, of course, I'm not a parent. I only have nieces and nephews. But as a teacher, of course, I do not want to skip school for the benefit of my co-teachers who will be losing their jobs. But well, for me, skipping school is something that we need to do. It might be something that we can take the challenge head on. I do believe that things should not be what they call this. You don't. I'm really sorry. But for me, that's the thing that I really wanted. Though skipping school will not be. Oh my God, it's something that I.
Or so it's for in Mindoro, you mentioned the Katutubo again earlier, since you're the representative for now. For the Katutubo, do you think it will matter to them, if we skip this school year? Is that going to be an issue for them?
I cannot really speak for them for now, but I think I don't know, Mom Jen can help me with this. So with their behavior, they'd rather be doing their farming or although of course education is important for them, yes. But skipping school, I really cannot give a whole context of what they really will really feel or how will they be able to see it in their perspective.
Okay, so let's move on to Dr. Jen. Since Dr. Jen has also a lot of experience in working with different groups around
No.
the Philippines, I think.
I would like to say that I'm enjoying the conversation, and I'm glad the UP in us shows. I like the point by Sir Vinny on localization, at the same time by Miss Aiken, that there's no one single solution. So the discussion reminded, and of course the situation reminds us of the geography of the country. We are an archipelago, so there's no one single solution. So that's why the idea of localization, the local community, local community, local schools, the LGU, the DepEd, the parents, the different organizations, private and public, also decide. So this is an opportunity to empower the community to revitalize that sense of community in order to proceed with the education in this time of pandemic. So another thing, the pandemic also, and of course, not just the pandemic, but many things happening right now, reveal the urban-rural divide, and of course, the class difference. Now, so for instance, I am based in LaSalle, but I have my family in Antique. So my DepEd family, they are, of course, trying to cope right now and being a leader in the community. Here in LaSalle, it was a very emotional, this online thing, not to pursue or not to pursue, became a very emotional thing and very stressful. But we realized, just like the decision of CHED, that again, there's no one single solution. So those who can, they have to. And those who cannot, like those areas, wala namang COVID, di ba? Pwede naman sigurong i-open yung school nila, especially if there's like just a primary school. So yung dense, of course, we have to formulate the physical distancing, hygiene and sanitation protocols, etc., etc. So my point is, those who can, we have to. And that's what we are doing in LaSalle. So we are taking the leadership on online learning. We are taking the challenge. So that's why there's no rest for us. At the start of the ACQ, I also joined the students' position not to proceed with online learning, but eventually I realized, no, we have to proceed, just like the point raised by Sir Vinny. And because, of course, that's also employment. That's also employment for, what about part-time teachers? Now, I'm fine because I'm full-time and I'm tenured, but what about part-time teachers? Now, they cannot afford, and they are parents also, and they are breadwinners. So we need to proceed now, especially if we can. So right. That's the thing.
Yeah, it's great that you mentioned that, Dr. Jen, because we know that going to school has a large effect on our economy. So on transportation, on food, it affects basically all the players in our economy. It affects the income of teachers and all the related professions and fields to education. So what do you think, Ms. Aiken, since you are an economist, do you think this will have a negative impact to our economy?
Yes, definitely. And I'm particularly wary of inequalities. Education is supposedly a long-term equalizer, and it should give everybody equal opportunities in the future. Visually, it looks like two groups of two income groups converging into the same economic or equal opportunities in the future in 10 to 20 years. So, but with the pandemic, that has become very challenging for the Philippines. And so it's not a good idea to actually skip school this year, especially for public schools. Yeah. In the short run, if we skip this year, there will be immediate unemployment. That's one. But teachers will eventually engage in private tutorials for those who can afford. So again, you go back to the issue of education inequality, which in the long run will lead to economic inequality. And many studies have shown that correlation. So also the government, as you know, has borrowed so much money for the 4-piece program. The 4-piece program, which provides social assistance for health and education. So it will also impact on the effectiveness of the 4-piece program. We may not get the impacts envisioned if we skip this year actually. So skipping a year and widening the education gap will actually drag down poverty alleviation programs of the government. So it's not a good idea. We should go and we should treat this year as a pilot or somehow piloting of the online or blended learning or what have you. And it's really time that we should pay attention to education and health as long-term mechanisms to uplift people out of poverty. Yeah, so that's my opinion. In the long term, we should see this in the long term more than how it is today. So that's all I can say for now.
That's right. Would you agree to that, Sir Vinny?
I think Sir Vinny is
yes.
There
All right. Yes, very very well said, Aiken. I 100% agree with you. The bottom line is, I think this is, nobody's really ready. If I may encapsulate what I've said earlier, nobody's really ready for this. Even the first world countries probably. But in the long run, we just have to face the music and dance together. If I may say it in my field, in my area, in that let's tango together, and then let's see what we can what will come out eventually. And so as not to get frustrated or disappointed in the process, probably we can lower our standards, and let's see how we can cope and beautifully breeze through this, because after all, we're humans with spirits, and let our spirits be bigger than our fears, and also bigger than our apprehensions and the uncertainty of the future. All of us here in the panelists have breezed through our education in college. Like, even if you get a 4, a conditional mark, an incomplete, but at the end of the day, we all fight. And then here we are right now, sharing our thoughts in the same platform. And I think that's a testimony of how God has allowed us to, surpass those challenges when way back when we are college, and we're just, I remember part of our initial talks before, like we even just survived with noodles and cheese bread in the dorm, and still submit what is required. There was when there was no computer yet, script writing classes have, how do you call this, typewriters, and we survived. So this is another challenge of the times, and I think with the right perspective, the right attitude, and of course with the collaboration and the synergy that we can master among ourselves and as a community. This is not a time for finger pointing or for blaming anybody. This happens, and we are all in this together. Probably if we say that education has been it should have been a great equalizer. Right now, the pandemic all has brought us to a greater realization of what we need most and what we can do on how to cope with this crisis. Thank you.
I'm loving the message, the general message of the discussion. Okay, so
Okay.
Yes, Dr. Jen, you want to say something?
Just 2 points. We are just referring here on formal education. So just to follow up on Ms. Charma's point earlier about the indigenous people. No? So we are just referring here on formal education, but of course, learning could happen outside the classroom. Just like there are suggestions right now, let kids learn farming, gardening, what you have there in the community, for instance, basic life skills. So those things, which could be their gap year. Although I agree, the gap year is very Western, of course, the class difference, the rural and urban difference there again. On one hand, right. On one hand, I would just like to react to the point of Sir Vinny. Para masaya lang, Sir Vinny. No, we have to demand the better from the government. No, we need to, yes, synergy, community, collaboration, but no, the government should do better.
Of course, Jen, I think it's but given. When I say that when we collaborate as a community, I think part of that we don't put them, or we don't exclude the government, be it local or national. At the end of the day, this is where dialogues really happen. Because when I say sometimes it's not easy to get angry, to get to vent out, but at the end of the day, will that really translate to what we desire? In this case, if we need to demand, then so be it. Because and we have to accordingly channel it in the right process, and that's you're right. We have to collaborate. Yes. Thank you.
So we can be chill about this, but at the same time demand more from the people who are supposed to deliver these services. So okay, we are running out of time, so let's now move on to the question and answer part. So let me call on our guest, Mr. Akifumi Mitsuhashi. Sir, are you there?
Oh, this moment.
Yes, hello. Okay.
Hello.
And you can ask your question. And please tell us who you want to answer.
Yes. So I had your discussions. So very nice. And so I have some questions. Number one. So I think so just a moment. I think so education is not changing. So what kind of grown-up do teachers want their students to be by using online? So I think no change. So what is the difference?
Sir, can you repeat the question?
Yeah. What kind of grown-up do teachers want their students to be by using online technology, online classroom? What is
grown-up?
Yeah. So I think no any change before pandemic. Only two. So I think only two.
So the main question is?
Yeah, what kind of grown-up do teachers want their students to be by using online digital technologies?
Okay. Who do you want to answer, sir?
No, so I don't know. So,
okay.
Yeah.
Dr. Jen, would you like to answer that?
I understand it as what grown-ups, is it clear? What grown-up do you want?
I think what kind of adults?
Yeah.
Okay.
So the
adult.
outcome. Yeah, very good question, sir. Thank you. I would like to take this opportunity to say that when we say online learning, the delivery mode, it does not mean that actually we are shortchanging our students or our learners. No, actually that's why there's a lot of training to be done by DepEd and everyone involved, because it requires different skill sets at the same time, of course, philosophy. So since in online learning, we are expecting our students to be able to think more for themselves, because they can do activities on their own. So actually, we want them to be critical thinker, to be creative, and actually to be more relaxed, because they can work at their own pace. And it's not really about the grade this time. That's why we do summative assessment at the end of the term. No? So they build their output every session should build toward a capstone. It's no longer the numerical grading actually that we are focusing on. And of course, we want them to think things like about social justice. That's why our syllabus right now, it's very important to be interdisciplinary. Now, they have to think about application of concepts on real issues, on real events. So like in the classroom right now, we can talk about the pandemic. We can talk about what's happening in the different countries in the world, because of this online learning. So actually, the continuation of learning right now via online platforms could give them that opportunity to express themselves. So I think that's good actually.
Thank you very much. So I agree with the opinion, and so I see your opinion. So I have additional questions. So yeah, online class is very effective. So in the online class, since using digital technology, so it may be easier to monitor and evaluate more objectively. So about question 2. So yeah, so what do you think about it? So question 2 is so how will DPED monitor the quality of instructions? So I think so in the online class, since using digital technologies, it may be easier. So what do you think about it?
It may be easier to learn using technology. Is that what you were saying?
Yeah. So teacher, it may be easier for teacher to monitor and evaluate their students.
Yes.
Objectively.
It will be easier for the teacher to evaluate online.
Yeah. So because online is digital and objectively technologies.
Who wants to answer? Sir Vinny, Ms. Charma, Ms. Aiken? Sir Vinny, go ahead.
I don't know whether it will really be easier for the teachers, because that may mean also that when all the submission of papers, let's say reflection papers or assessments will be submitted online, that's a challenge also for teachers to really one by one open the attachment, the emails, and evaluate. So that's a challenge also, in which case teachers will have to spend more time on their gadgets also evaluating. So that's a challenge. And so it can be easier because they can go back to it. But I can't really speak for teachers because we haven't really tried it right now. Like it's a full term, no? Like if it's the whole year and everything is online, I don't know the challenge of evaluation. But hopefully, everyone or every teacher will be empowered and will have capability training that they need to deliver their lesson vis-a-vis evaluating the outputs of their students or the performance of their students. And that's very important. For me, the balance of these two. Yeah, that's it.
May I add?
Go ahead.
I understand the question maybe because sir is thinking of some computer-generated or like, for example, in our LMS, we can do quiz. And it's easy if it's like answerable of yes or no that the machine could generate. But I think that's why the answer, it depends on the subject. And it depends on the kind of assessment being done. In my case, because I'm teaching creative writing, it's a lot of work, the online thing, because right now it's actually more intimate. We schedule video chat with a student. During the face-to-face, it could be completed within 1.5 hours in the classroom. But right now, you have to schedule video chat and it could extend until, let's say, 3 hours.
Right.
It's longer now. It's more.
So if all teachers and all students have a lot of experience, good experience to take using online class, online technology, so our our life is be happy, and the online classes would be more effective. Yeah, I think.
I think so too. Okay, you have any other questions?
No, thank you very much. Yeah, that's all.
Okay, thank you so much. Okay, Miss Roma, let's move on.
Thank you so much, Ms. Florence. This has been really a very helpful discussion. And I just realized, and you're absolutely right. I mean, there are a lot of realizations in this pandemic, and there's really no need to skip the school year. With this kind of situation, it's just we don't need to be skeptical, but we need to be more creative and be more instrumental in coping with this a lot of changes and demands with a new normal of learning. But anyway, it was really nice listening to everyone. But for now, I will be giving you some helpful words, especially to our viewers and of course to our dear students, for you to expand your vocabulary. I will be providing 3 words. And the first one is upskill. Upskill is a verb which means to teach or learn additional skills. And then the second one is abrupt. This is an adjective which means sudden or very unexpected. And then the third one, skeptical. And I guess a lot of people are being skeptical right now because of this new normal of learning, a new normal situation of having classes. It means not easily convinced, having doubts, or you're having a lot of reservations, which is of course understandable. But anyway, so these are the useful vocabularies that we can use for our day-to-day conversation. And now on the next part of our program will be the final messages, of course, from our guests and from our beautiful host. But let us first have our first guest. So may we have Miss Aiken to give her message to everyone, especially those people who are being skeptical with this new process or new learning process that we're having right now.
Yeah, okay. So if I may just give a little perspective from a public policy point of view as well. I agree that with everybody that the government should do more. So one thing's for sure, LGUs in particular should boost education spending, through the special education fund, because it's there. Taxpayers have paid for it. This is actually one of the recommendations as well of the World Bank study in 2016, which assessed the basic education service delivery in the Philippines. So it's a good place to start for LGUs to participate or to augment central government's spending on education. For teachers, the University of the Philippines Open University actually rolled out a training course for teachers, administrators, and it's meant to provide teachers capacity with the new learning system, the open learning program. So I hope DepEd and UP Open University can work together to make sure that all teachers take advantage of the free course. It was done in April. I don't know if they're gonna roll out again someday. For parents, we should take part and be proactive this year. I think it's time we reactivate the parents-teacher associations, although I'm not interested because I'm very busy. But I think this is useful with the public schools. So parent PTAs, yeah, I remember my mom had to do that. So, and also we should be more considerate at this time and not very demanding as parents. For all of us, I think we should take the pandemic as an opportunity to really reevaluate our priorities, our aspirations, as parents, and aspirations for our country as well. At least for me, it's really not time for rigor and mathematics and science. I mean, no. While we want that, of course, we want to see well-adapted children, socially aware, so hopefully they could become good citizens of this country. And in conclusion, I'd like to quote Nelson Mandela. The power of education extends beyond the development of skills we need for economic success. It can contribute to nation building and reconciliation. So, and that's what we need the most now, reconciliation. So that's all for me. Thank you.
Wow, thank you so much, Miss Aiken. That's very beautiful. That's a very nice insight from you. And I really like it when you said that in this pandemic, we should need to reevaluate ourselves. What do we really need? And what is our priority right now? Well, anyway, thank you so much, Miss Aiken. Now let's also have Sir Vicente.
Thank you, Miss Roma. I'll keep this very short, but I think I just would like to end by saying that let's keep ourselves safe and healthy. When we speak of health, let's not just consider physical health, but even our mental health should be intact, because we have to face this pandemic, not just in a daytime, like especially in Cebu, cases are still growing. So it can make us go crazy.
I guess. Okay. Yes. I totally agree with Sir Vicente. We need to also to take good care of our not only our physical health but our mental health.
For
This
us to
lock.
better ourselves and to also face the future with such resilience and creativity. Thank you.
Exactly. Resilience, that's very important. And we should never be skeptical about this. I know it's really hard, but we need to cope with so many changes right now. Thank you so much, Sir Vicente. Now, may we also have Miss Charma.
Okay, so as a final message, let me just make a quote from a verse from the Bible. That's the Ecclesiastes chapter 3, verse 1. So for everything, there is a season and a time for every purpose under heaven. So keep faith, keep safe, everyone, as we rise up to the challenges of the new normal. So thank you so much and good afternoon.
Thank you so much, Miss Charma. I agree. Everything happens for a reason, and we should keep our faith, of course. And of course, may we have also Dr. Genevieve.
Distance does not mean absence. I think our word is connectivity or connection. And this is an extraordinary time, challenging, but at the same time, reveals possibilities to, I agree, stop doing what is no longer needed, to undo, to unlearn, and relearn, and rethink, and reimagine, like connected education instead of distance education. And I think it's time to continue what we believe we should be doing, especially to help close the class divide and the digital gap of public and private institutions, the urban and the rural divide, and to continue love for country and all living things, social justice, and to continue giving open educational resources versus expensive textbooks. No more expensive textbooks. And thus to be braver, bolder, and to take more risk for an inclusive education.
Wow, thank you so much, Dr. Genevieve. I really like the energy and the power you're trying to tell to everyone. Such a powerful message to everyone to ponder on. Well, thank you so much, Dr. Genevieve. And maybe also have a message from my co-host, Miss Lawrence.
Wow, I'm loving all the messages from all our guests today, Miss Roma. I think we are learning a lot. And as a final message, I would just like to emphasize that there's a difference between formal education, which is what we are talking about today, and learning. And I think this pandemic is teaching us to learn. It's teaching the formal education to learn, right? And to learn means to adapt, to be flexible, to take what works and to discard what doesn't, as what Dr. Jen just said. So we have to learn and we have to relax. And if Western countries have the idea of having a gap year, and during a gap year is when a student would go travel to another country, involve themselves in community work and see how other countries are dealing with their problems and issues, social issues and economic issues. And they come from it a much better person. I think they learn from it in that 1 year of gap year. They learn so much. They learn more than they learned in 15 years in formal education, because travel can teach you that. Real travel can teach you that. So that's my final message. Let's relax, as everybody said in this webinar today. Chill, relax, don't be too grade conscious, because I think a lot of Filipino moms and a lot of Filipino parents are too grade conscious. It's not about the grade. You know, to be totally honest, in college, my grades, I don't even want to show my transcript. But you know, I think I've come out to be a good citizen and a functional citizen and a good person, and that's what really matters. And I think this pandemic is teaching us that, to look at what is really important in life.
Exactly. Wow, so many wonderful messages from our guests, and of course from my guest co-host. Well, yeah, that's it. I mean, everyone is right. It's not just about, you know, complaining or being skeptical in this kind of situation, but it's about, you know, being more positive or being more creative, because in this kind of situation there are a lot of learnings happening, and this new kind of learning or new normal of learning is not actually new. As what they've said a while ago, they've been doing this long time ago, wherein there are no computers, there are no Wi-Fi, only library, and it's all about, you know, they even use typewriter. It's not something new, and they were able to survive it. Me too. I was able to survive not having my own computer before or my own Wi-Fi. So to the kids and to the students right now, don't worry. Everything will be okay, and your parents and your teachers are there to support you. Let's just support each other, and let's just stop complaining about this new learning process. But you know what? This is a really nice discussion. I really love it. And thank you so much, of course, to our guests for today, and to everyone who joined us, of course, including our technical staff, and of course, to my beautiful guest co-host. This will not be possible without each of you. And of course, we're looking forward for our next online salon. Thank you for watching us, and please don't forget to leave a comment and subscribe to our YouTube channel at GLCA TV. And we'll see you again on our next online salon.
Yes, and as we end this session, we would like to leave you with this thought of the day. So this is from Malala Yousafzai, a female Pakistani education advocate and women's rights activist who became the youngest person to receive the Nobel Peace Prize. And this was during the time when girls are not allowed to go to school by the Taliban. So she said, "I will get my education if it is in home, school, or any place." So there you go.
Thank you so much, Ms. Florence, for that very wonderful thought. So this is Ms. Rama. Stay safe, everyone, and we'll see you again next time.
See you. Bye, everyone. Thanks to all.